Lael opened his eyes widely.
What?
You know, the guy that was lying next to you. L.I.E was his name.
He was called Damon, actually. He was my colleague.
Lael tilted his head. She looked at him and made a sarcastic smile.
That's just an undercover name. That bastard was involved with you cops, huh?
I never would have believed that the Damon that I knew was actually the person you described as your brother. But after what I saw today, well, it doesn't surprise me, actually.
I bet he was a charming person.
Lael looked at her. Although she looked sad for seconds, her countenance was showing something else.
Is it relief? He actually was. But now I see that's just another lie.
You know, the reason why I punch you is because... It's because you took away the opportunity I was waiting for so long to revenge my sister and myself.
Lael bit his lip, unable to say anything. He felt bad with himself. He took away one of the reasons Edath was living for. He looked at the revolted sea.
Everywhere I go, I end up screwing up someone's life.
He sighed and looked at Edath, who was still quiet. Not predicting it, Lael leaned towards her and held her close in his arms, hugging her. Edath didn't fight back, although she was surprised.
Hey, what is this for? I'm okay, really.
She said, blushing brightly. Edath wasn't expecting that at all. Lael noticed she was confused.
Just hold me back. Hold me.
Edath sighed and put her arms around him. They stayed like that for a couple of seconds until Edath finally spoke.
Oh! You want sex, is that it?
Edath looked like she had found the answer for a question she didn't know. Now it was the time for Lael to blush and look at her, breaking physical contact.
What? No! I was holding you with no other intentions. It's called comforting another person, Edath. It's what hugs are for.
He paused for a second as she began to laugh. He was unsure if she was teasing him or if she really was confused. Aiken chuckled too and teased.
I mean, unless you want to. Which, in that case...
Finally! I was beginning to think that you had murdered Lael.
Simon exclaimed as Edath and Lael returned back.
So you knew that there was a possibility she'd murder me?
Simon laughed as Edath sighed and rolled her eyes.
Why'd you even hear what his nerd says? I never killed anyone that belonged to our group, unless there was a betrayal. I'm trying to build an army. How would I do that if I kill you for any reason?
Well, Lael did leave us to join a murder club. I think that counts as a reason.
Lael looked at him. Simon had his normal mocking expression, but Aiken noticed a small distrust in his good eye. It was something really subtle. But Lael understood that Simon was going to keep any eye open for any false move he could do.
And he's going to be punished for that. But it does not mean he deserves to be killed.
Edath replied and smacked Simon's arm in a playful way.
Besides, he ended up killing L.I.E, so at the very least we need to celebrate.
Lael bit his lip. Every time they mentioned that name or the word kill, he felt sick. He knew they were used to that.
But I'm not. I still can't clear my head about all that shit.
Oi, you're listening? You're dismissed from your night turns for some days. Consider yourself lucky.
Edath grinned as she leaned on his shoulder.
But your trains aren't over. We still need to work a lot so we can overcome our difficulties and rescue more people to end up this shit.
By the way, did you notice?
Did I notice what?
Simon grinned. He grabbed Nale's riffle and pointed his index finger to a small device incorporated in the small telescopic. Lael approached him and looked at the device.
What's that?
This, dear Lael, is what I've been working on lately. It's a mechanism that allows Nale to take an even more precise shot. With this, even you can shoot one of these without much trouble.
Simon proudly said, while Lael was looking through the telescopic sight and noticed some differences from the last time he used it when practicing.
It allows you to use it easier on a moving object or person. It's like an auto-aim if you like to give it a name.
Like in the games.
Yeah, and the first time it was used was with Nale, when we came to rescue. It's excellent because he shot so many people so much quicker than he used to.
Actually, I got inspired by those games you guys play.
Simon folded his arms and showed a cocky expression on his face.
I'll show you more gadgets I created, but maybe another time. You probably want sleep. You must be exhausted.
Actually, I don't think I could sleep now, even if I wanted to. I still have too much going on in my head, and honestly, I could use a distraction.
He looked towards Edath and then to the floor, where he picked up a small rock and played with it.
If you say so.
He showed Lael a few creations that helped them so far, from the older, the water filter, to the most recent one, the one he had already showed Lael. Aiken had the feeling that Simon wasn't so wary of him anymore, but he wasn't sure. He sat on the front bench where Edath and Nale were talking. Well, where Edath was talking and Nale gesticulating. Simon followed him and sat next to him.
So, which one did you like more?
I can't pick one. Your inventions are all unique and useful in their own way.
See?
He said loud enough to interrupt Edath's conversation and make them look at him.
Lael said my inventions are unique and useful.
Edath and Nale laughed as well, but the first one rolled her eyes.
We never say they weren't.
But you never said they were either.
Simon put on a sad face that was really forced, because it was clear he wanted to laugh.
Oh, come on, we're always thanking you for your inventions. Lael, you can't spoil him.
Edath shook her head, clearly amused. Aiken put his hands in the air, trying to claim his innocence, smiling.
Lael, now that I think about it, we don't know much about you.
She folded her arms upon her chest. Lael looked at her with a confused face.
Is this going to be an interrogation?
She shook her head and put a finger in the air.
We can make this easier for you. We ask you something, and after you reply, it's your time to ask us something. Well, that is, if you still have anything to ask, because you're always asking questions all the time.
I mean, if you insist, why not? It might be interesting. After all, I'm living with you.
Awesome! So I'll go first.
She said and rested her head in her hand, while looking at him, thinking about a question.
Oh, I know! Are you an only child?
I am. So that makes it my turn to ask, right? Edath, what do those short lines tattooed on your back and also your arms mean?
Edath smirked and sighed before explaining.
Every line represents all the people I've killed so far. All the betrayals. All the revenges. If you don't want to be a part of this list, please remain true to me, as I'll always be true to all of you.
Lael looked at her with surprise.
She is really sentimental and vengeful.
I have a question now, if I may.
Nale had scribbled down. Aiken nodded and waited for him to write his question.
You can simply tell us, and we tell him.
Nale looked at him with an upset face and moved his head in a way it said, "But I'm not talking to you."
Did you enjoy living where you lived before?
Nale's notebook said. Lael nodded and thought about it.
It wasn't bad, I guess. I think I value it more now, though, as I came to live here. It's quite different. Nale, how did you become so good with guns and, with your fists?
Nale smiled and bowed his head as thanks, while he began to scribble down.
Nale learns a few techniques when he was younger.
Simon replied, making Nale angry at him because he was interrupting him. Simon chuckled and continued.
Living here, it's more than natural to learn how to use a gun. The fighting, on the other hand, was just his thing.
Speaking of guns, what's your favorite?
Huh. Usually people ask me what's my favorite food or something, but I see that doesn't really matter here. Well, I really like nails.
Oh, the Blazer R8? Huh, that's a good choice. It's also my favorite.
Nail again. If you don't mind my asking, is the fact that you can't speak related to that scar on your neck?
Nale nodded and looked at Simon with an upset face.
What's that? Are you basically telling me to speak now for you? Too tired to scribble down everything, I bet?
Nale sighed and shrugged.
All right, I shall tell you then.